Okay, shaping a future of rights amidst digital technologies. The internet and digital technologies have democratized information, and now everyone can produce, reproduce, and distribute information at lightning speed. It's brought a lot of good, by making information open to more people than ever, but it has also brought some difficulties. Our first panel session today, Who Stole the News, is the press under a digital siege, would be anchored by Tonye Bakare. And, we already have Nelson Okore, Opeyemi Kehinde, and Chinese Amanfo, while we await the fourth, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, yes, the fourth panelist for this particular session, which is Benedicta Akpede, would have to begin, the first session.
Hello, I'm here.
Thank you. Well, you're here as Benzo Lala. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to use my phone because I'm not so sure about network these days.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Welcome. This webinar is made possible by organizing partners, Africa Tech Radio, CJID, Tech on Code, the London School of Public Relations, LSPR Nigeria, and Mankind and Artificial Intelligence. Mankind Artificial Intelligence groups. So I welcome everyone to this space, and I welcome everyone to this webinar. I don't want us to take much time waiting for others to join, because I know others are joining and some of the message saying they have some difficulty. So while we're sorting that out, we would start the conversation. I would welcome Tonye Bakare. He is a journalist with the AFP. He would be anchoring or moderating, the first session today, which is on, I would say it's Who Stole the News? Is the press under a digital siege or not? But then I would allow our panelists today and our discussants today to actually give us a little bit more context to that. Tonye, you on the floor now.
Thank you, Anthony, for that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to this panel discussion. My name is Tonye Bakare. I'm a journalist with AFP, and I'll be the moderator for today's discussion. According to Reporters Sans Fair, World Press Freedom Index for 2023 ranked Nigeria 123 out of 180 countries profiled. The ability of Nigerian journalists to do their job is rated employers, governments, public relations, and their agents. Now, Nigeria is regarded as one of West Africa's most dangerous, difficult countries for journalists, who are often monitored, attacked, arbitrarily arrested, as was the case during the 2023 general elections. The countries profiled. Most of the index questionnaires reported that political actors in their countries were often or systematically involved in massive disinformation or propaganda. We've seen the case of how political operators and their agents could affect public opinion during the last general elections held in Nigeria. The difference is being blurred between true and false, real and artificial, facts and fiction, jeopardizing the rights of people to right information. The unprecedented ability to tamper with content is being used to undermine those who embody quality journalism and weak journalism and weaken journalism itself. So in this wise, a lot of people who are into real journalism are being called liars because activities or a few others who are using the word journalism to perpetrate falsehood. Today, we are going to be looking at this and how it has affected press freedom in Nigeria. And I'm going to start with Opeyemi Kehinde. Opeyemi Kehinde is the editor and team lead at FactCheck Hub in Nigeria. I'm going to ask you this, Opeyemi. How does disinformation impact press freedom? How does this affect your work as somebody who is fighting disinformation in the country?
Oh, thank you, Tonye. over the years, we talked about the impact of disinformation, how it shares violence, how it creates chaos in one's peaceful society, how it also erodes people's confidence in government, even in institutions that are supposed to be the guardian of the society. So how it impacts the press freedom, it actually involves a lot of ways, because if you look at how some of the content, for instance, that we reviewed during the election season, actually influenced voters' behavior during the election, during the just concluded Nigerian election. You will discover that it also inhibits the freedom of expression. And whatever that targets the freedom of expression of the people, it affects their fundamental human rights. And if people can no longer think critically, then such a society is in disarray. And we cannot overemphasize the importance of the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech, and the freedom of people to have access to basic information required for their daily activities. And it's let me stop there.
Apologies, I didn't introduce other members of the panel. We have Nelson Okorie, who is the director of the media of the Center for Media and Communication Research at Pan Atlantic University in Lagos. We have Chinese Amanfo, who is the public relations lead at Night Mobile, and Benedicta Akpede, the project officer, media freedoms for at Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development. You're all welcome to this panel discussion. So I'm going to go to Okorie. Now, Okorie has told us how disinformation can impact media freedom, essentially telling us that when people can no longer decide on their own what is real and what is not, then it means that the ability of the press to do the job that they've been saddled with is impeded. What do you think as a journalist, a trained journalist, when you have such a situation on your hands, what is the next thing you should do? And that's for Nelson Okorie.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, when we talk about disinformation, it's important for us to just take note about certain things. First, disinformation is false information that has the intent to mislead people. And as a professional journalist, it's important for one to have this understanding of what news is and the ethics of news. The ethics of news requires that news should be objective, news should be accurate, and news should be balanced. As a professional journalist, one needs to analyze news in these three major elements or characteristics. Is the news objective? Is the news accurate? Is the news balanced? Now, when we talk about news being objective, it seems simply saying you should not have a subjective standpoint. You shouldn't have a subjective, you should be objective, you should remain neutral as regards this particular issue. And when we talk about it being accurate, you look at the 5 W's and H: who, what, when, where, and why, and how. You need to provide correct information in these areas. Who is saying it? What is it saying? Where is it saying it? When is it saying it? Why is it saying it? And how is it saying it? These things are very, very important. All these areas must be correct information. Then lastly, it has to be balanced. That means you must have two sides. The two sides of the story must be covered. So it's important. But what we have here in Nigeria is that persons have these issues. It's either the information on its own is not objective, where the person is putting his own subjective viewpoint, maybe because of the organization you operate in, the political affiliation of that particular organization, media organization, to that particular issue, or you talk about a situation where the person did not get the complete information on who, what, when, where, why, and how. It does get incomplete information. And lastly, we talk about balance. We find out that persons actually publish some certain particular stories at one side of the story and leave the other side. Look at the case of this Sudan evacuation. There was a particular story that came out saying, okay, that some Igbos were left behind. And a number of mainstream newspapers actually covered that particular story. But that story shouldn't be covered unless there's a balance. Hearing from this side and hearing from the other side. This is how one can avoid issues of misleading information, misleading false information for the intent of misleading. I'll stop here, please.
Okay, I'm going to stick with you, Okorie. Based on what you just said, that some mainstream media houses reported that particular issue, and it brings me to this question: whose responsibility is it to train journalists, especially those in legacy media houses, television and radio stations? Because apart from that issue that you highlighted, there were instances during the election campaign when recognized media houses, television stations, and newspapers published information sourced from the social media that were outright false. So whose responsibility is it to train journalists, especially other journalists from the legacy media? Whose responsibility, whose job is it?
Yes, we have to look at it from different dimensions. First, from the individual dimension. If you say you are a journalist, that simply means you are a professional. And being a professional simply means that you operate based on certain principles. You know what is good, you know what is bad, you know what is correct and what's incorrect. As a professional, as a journalist, it's important for you to update yourself with knowledge, with information. That is what makes you stand out. And not just for you updating yourself, updating your knowledge about certain subjects or about your specific profession. As an individual, you need to influence other individuals in your organization. When you acquire that knowledge, you should have the ability to influence other people. That is at the individual level. Then at the organizational level, media organizations are supposed to have what we call ethical communication channels, whereby they enlighten them on certain issues, especially issues of disinformation. For example, you can send emails to your entire employee base telling them about issues that have to do with disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, propaganda, the likes, and enlighten them about this certain thing. Then also another channel can be monthly meetings. These monthly meetings, they can discuss this particular issue. Another channel is it's seminars and workshops, which we are doing here now. So through webinars, seminars organized by the media organization itself or by external organization, they have the way of updating themselves or acquiring that specific knowledge about that. That is at the organizational level. But another level, the non-governmental agencies have a role to play. You see, we have a number of non-governmental organizations. Their major role here is for them to create awareness and knowledge about specific issues. And a number of non-governmental organizations or non-commercial organizations have been doing this. We talk about the Center for Development and Democracy is doing that. We talk about the Center for Innovation and Journalism. Currently, yes, it's doing that. So we have a number of centers, a number of non-governmental organizations that are creating the awareness and knowledge about this, especially the issue of disinformation. We need to enlighten the public about certain issues. Disinformation can cripple the economy. Disinformation can negatively affect national building. So the state and the national government need to create awareness and knowledge about certain issues. For example, from the national level, Ministry of Information, National Orientation Agency need to do that. I know they're already doing that in a number of fronts, so they need to do more in that regard. Then lastly, we talk about international organizations like African Union, ECOWAS, United Nations. They have a role to play in contributing to this. So at these different levels, the individual, the organization, the states, the national government, the international organization, they have a role to play in updating and increasing the knowledge about this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Okori. That was very interesting. It's like I'm back in lecture listening to my lecturer speaking about media ethics. Very interesting. Now, Benedicta, let's come to you. There is that belief that the media is under siege. What exactly is this siege? Who do you think is responsible, or what are the organizations responsible? We know that journalists in Nigeria have a lot of problems when it comes to discharging their responsibilities to the people. So who is responsible for this siege, and how can journalists, when they recognize these problems, how can they, counter them? Benedicta.
Hello everyone. I'm sorry that Benzola is showing as my name, so I'm using my phone for this because of uncertainty of network. So I think I will start with data points on the question on if the press freedom in Nigeria is under siege. So in 2022, so Nigeria dropped from 120 to 129, according to the Reporters Without Borders. So they also made a claim saying that Nigeria is one of the most dangerous and difficult countries in West Africa for a journalist to work. So where they are often monitored, they are attacked, and they are arbitrarily arrested. At the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, we have a civic tool called the Press Attack Tracker. Now, the Press Attack Tracker is a civic tool that helps to where we collect data on journalists that have been attacked over the years. And we've been gathering data from since 2017 to date, and we've been able to gather 610 journalists that have been attacked from 1985 to 2023. And that's in accounted for the highest number, followed by 2022, that was last year. So 2019, we had 79 reports of journalists that also were attacked. that was last year, we had 52 journalists that were attacked. Now, so from 2019 to 2022, so this is like just one administration year. So we had a total number of 179 journalists that have been attacked. So these attacks include unlawful arrest, denial of access, physical attack, equipment seizure and damage, sanction by regulatory bodies, slaps, shutdown, harassment, threats, and even death. So from the space of 2019 to, from the period of 2019 to 2022, we've been able to find out that we recorded like 2 deaths. So I think 3 deaths yet. So one of Pelumi Onifade, the other one of Alex Ubu, and the other one of I think Ola. Yes. And the sad part of this is that nobody has been brought to account for this impunity. Now, let's just come back to this year. Let's just come this year. So in 2023, the data shows that in the first quarter of 2023, 45 journalists have been attacked. And most of this happened between February and March. So now most of the kind of attack that was very prevalent was physical attack. So journalists were beaten, they were harassed, and everything was during the whole political tension and all of that. And same during the electoral period and all of that, I think there was a report that said that 25 media houses were sanctioned by the NBC. And I think in March again, overall, there was a report that came out that 302 media organizations, sanctioned by the NBC. Perpetrators of this attack, most especially, we noticed that it used to be state actors and security agencies. Now, what makes us very, very sad about this is that the factor, or not just the authority that is supposed to help uphold that question of is the media under siege, I would say yes. Because the law in Nigeria are not even friendly to the press. Now let's talk about Anti-Terrorism Act, the Defamation Act, the draft code that they brought out last year in 2022. Yes, the draft code, NITA code last year, and the Cyber Crimes Act 2015. just if Agbajango was remanded in prison because he wrote an article about the sister-in-law of the governor of I think Cross River State, Benayade, all of that. So it's very, very baffling. It's very baffling, and especially Section 24 and Section 6 of the Cybercrimes Act have been used to prosecute journalists from, I think, as way far back as I can see my data, I think from 2018 to date. So now it's just not physical attack. Even the laws itself are not very friendly to journalists. And yes, I would say that the media is under siege in Nigeria. So you asked one other question. Sorry, what was the last question you asked?
I asked that recognizing this siege should help journalists be able to circumvent this siege and be able to do their job. How can they do this, especially when you talk about certain stifling laws, you mentioned cybercrime laws and others? How can journalists, regardless of these laws, be able to do their job? Because again, you cannot say because there are laws impeding your activities as a journalist, then you answer. How can they navigate this tricky situation? Yeah, we will have to come back to Benedicta when the network is stable enough. So yeah, we go to Chinese. One of the organizations, let me say, people that some journalists have complained about with interference in the way they do their job, public relation firms and public relation expert practitioners. Chinese, do you think this is fair enough on you, on public relation experts, practitioners? I understand that one of the jobs of public relation firms is to control narratives on behalf of their clients. But sometimes journalists find that as a sort of interference in the way they do their job. Do you think this is fair enough on you and others?
Thank you, Tonya, for the question.
Yeah,
I think it's the other way around, but maybe that's a discussion for another day. So I worked in a PR firm for 9 years, when I started my PR journey. So, and I do know that PR firms are those professionals who have the expertise to provide strategic direction that helps their clients to maintain their brand reputation. PR practitioners typically work in those PR firms or in different organizations. And what they do is to establish relationships, build and manage the reputation of the organizations. This means that they use a variety of media sources to achieve all their set objectives. So media in this case, media, of course, is those communication channels which we use to circulate news, music, and different data. Media is supposedly the fourth estate of the realm, implying that they have the capacity to advocate and frame different issues. So as PR people, we see the media, and by extension, the journalists, the reporters, we see them more like partners. And it is in our own interest to see that they succeed. So back to this question, do I agree? Like I said earlier, I do not agree that PR firms and practitioners are part of the reason the media is not truly free, or maybe like they are the challenge that they face. The concern that some people have this belief is actually, I think maybe there are deeper issues beyond that. There are concerns, and I think those concerns have, they have deeper issues. And to understand these concerns, maybe you take a look at the Nigerian media landscape. A lot has changed in that space. And one of the biggest setbacks which I see and which is glaring is the struggle with their poor remuneration. It's a big challenge. It has a big impact in the way the media is run now. And so the media on their own, they are susceptible to being influenced by different institutions, not necessarily, the PR firms. What we essentially have now in the media is pay for play system. And so that's to say that the freedom of the media does not lie, has nothing to do with the PR man or woman. It lies in the ability of the media and by extension, the journalist to rise up and be counted. All right, the media is unfortunately a victim of socioeconomic and political variables. And I think that should be where the energy on their freedom should lie, not on PR firms. The PR firms are happy to ensure that the journalists, that the media survive, because if just to educate the people that are non-PR people on the call, media relations, which is facilitated by the media and the journalist, is a subset of public relations and is the most visible aspect of public relations. So why will the PR firms not ensure that the media survives, that the journalist survives? It doesn't add up. So I don't think the PR firms are their challenge. I don't think the PR firms are their problems. I think that they are deep-rooted issues which the media and the journalists should face, and not the PR firms. The PR firms, except maybe, of course, you always have some bad eggs, but the PR firms are in business to ensure that the journalists, the media survive, so that they too, you will see the output of all their PR efforts. I think I should stop there for now.
Thank you, Chinese. You have just hit the ball back to the journalist. So let me ask you this, Chinese. You suggested that poor economic variables and perhaps poor remuneration make journalists susceptible to certain influences outside of the newsroom. How again, as the PR practitioners, manage that sort of relationship, knowing that some journalists are susceptible to that sort of inducement or interference? How do you think people in your shoes should manage that relationship? Again, everybody needs money to survive. And when a public relation practitioner brings money, that's probably is equivalent to a journalist's 50% of salary. And so it's a push and pull sort of situation. How do you think that situation can be better managed without this undue interference?
I think one of the things that some organizations have started doing is to try and equip the journalists in such a way that they own the space and they will not just rely on whatever they are getting from the media. How can they monetize their content? Because a lot of the content they generate is generated by themselves. So their original content, well, some maybe might not be, but I mean, like they say on the street. So what do they do with that content? So I work in an organization where we have a quarterly capacity building for journalists. What do? We scan around. What are those topics that will be most relevant to them? We've talked about digital to them. We've discussed artificial intelligence. We've discussed a number of topics to help them, to give them, to just better equip them so that they can own the space, be the boss of themselves. And if they are in that situation where they can own the space, become their own bosses, then for goodness sake, that nothing stops them from making, extra income from different sources, from the digital, from their blogs. Some of them run blogs. I know a number of them that own their own blogs. They have blogs, and blogs, people get paid. People pay for blog posts now. So why not? They have the content, they have the capacity, they can write. And people, they've gathered, that following, depending on the beats where they write, the beats, either sports, IT, and thereabouts. So how about equipping them to ensure that, they become subject matter experts in their different fields, equip them so that they can earn outside what they are expected to earn from their organizations, which is not a lot from experience, from the interactions we've had with the media. So I think that's one of the basic things that I know is very helpful, among other things. And then another thing is you can provide opportunities for them, since we're talking about PR firms now, things that you can engage the journalists or you can engage the journalists to do, and that is one aspect of it as well. The media functions on adverts, okay? They function on adverts. When you give them adverts, you saw the news desk or for them to operate. So what happens is that because they don't get enough adverts, probably because a lot of those advertising spends have been cut down, a lot have gone digital, a lot of organizations are using social media. So advertising budgets have really gone down. So what happens is that you don't get a lot of adverts in all those media. So you can equip them as well. If you have opportunities to place adverts for in their publications, you can do that as well. In that way, you're equipping them. I understand that adverts that go directly from reporters to media house get some certain commissions. Okay, so all of these things are ways you can equip the journalists to make sure that you sustain them, meet your objectives, because like I said earlier, the media relations are the most visible aspects of public relations. So what better way than to equip them to make sure that they are always there to support you and help you to deliver on your objectives. Maybe I should stop for now.
Thank you. I would love to continue on that line of questioning, but we have other panelists. Yeah. One of the two things that Chinese mentioned point to democratization of access to digital media tools. She mentioned news blogs, she mentioned social media. Opeyemi, I'm coming to you with this question. These two things are part of the reasons disinformation spread quickly and almost uncontrollably. Now, how do we deal with this access? We can't say government should clamp down on access to these tools, but how can we manage the use of this access to this tool? That's democratization. You know, anybody can open social media account. Anybody who has little change in his pocket can create a news blog, and from one corner of a village in Zungeru, then that person can reach the entire world with whatever he or she wants to publish. Now, how do we ensure that this access is managed, is used responsibly as journalists? This question, okay, are you here with us? Yeah, I would like to ask you. I would like to ask you this with certain problems in the discharge of their job. Now, what's the role of, you mentioned those who should do things, like you highlighted the roles of organizations like CJID, the government, and continental bodies such as African Union. Now, does a typical Nigerian university who is running a mass communication department have content on its syllabus that caters to this emerging needs, fighting disinformation and misinformation in the digital era? Do you think, have you seen it, where Nigerian universities have not just having it on the syllabus, but have capable hands, professionals who can teach these things effectively?
Yes, the fact is this, when we talk about disinformation, like I said earlier, is a product of fake news. We have misinformation, malinformation, disinformation, propaganda. They all fall within these different types of fake news. And the interesting thing here is that there are two approaches that journalism educators actually adopt in teaching topics to address issues of disinformation. The first is media ethics, like I've mentioned before. Media ethics is an integral part of journalism education curriculum. For every profession, whether you're a public relations professional, whether you're a print journalist, whether you're a broadcaster, whether you're working in advertising, there are ethical guidelines that define your operation. All professionals in the media and communication field have to operate under the ambit of ethics. So you find out that in most of universities in Nigeria, I don't want to say all, most universities in Nigeria, they teach this aspect of ethics in media and communication, and they break it down. Ethics in public relations, what is required? Ethics in advertising, what is required? Ethics in print and broadcast journalism, what is required? And they teach this aspect. So the students at 3 levels, the undergraduate, postgraduate, and professional education, they have that understanding of what ethics is required, especially in addressing issues of disinformation. Now, the second approach journalism educators adopt also is media and information literacy. Media and information literacy it's the ability in analyzing stories presented by the media. You engage in critical thinking, you analyze, you evaluate the stories, and you need to distinguish between facts and opinion, facts and fiction. So this is being taught by media educators in many universities in Nigeria. Interestingly, UNESCO promotes this particular agenda of media and information literacy to be taught in journalism educators. Currently, UNESCO and Google is doing something with excellency in journalism education, and there's an emphasis on MIL, media and information literacy, to address issues of disinformation. And communication bodies have organized conferences and symposiums in the area of media and information literacy to curb issues of disinformation. So in these 2 major areas, media ethics, one, and the other area, media and information literacy, these are the 2 major approaches journalism educators adopt to address issues of disinformation. I need to also emphasize that media and information literacy is also linked to fact-checking. So when we want to verify information, students having that understanding of MIL, they can have the ability to evaluate facts and determine whether this information is false or correct.
Okay. Before you go, Okorie, I have this follow-up for you. Do you think the current syllabus that we have are capable of dealing with the use of artificial intelligence in disinformation? It's an emerging problem. I said, do you think that the current syllabus that we have, it will be enough to combat the use of artificial intelligence in disinformation?
Artificial intelligence in disinformation. Yes. The fact is this: currently, we have what we call the CMAS. The CMAS was actually introduced by the Nigerian University Commission in December 2022. And by March 2023, most universities have actually submitted their contents in that aspect of the CMAS. CMAS, it's actually that's being used, especially in journalism education now. But the interesting thing now is that also UNESCO and Google is currently doing something in curriculum development in this area for excellency in journalism education. And the idea of artificial intelligence was incorporated because they had different regional consultation. There was a regional consultation in East Africa, there was a regional consultation in South Africa, there was a regional consultation in West Africa, and we had a number of journalism educators from Nigeria and Ghana participating in that particular event. Currently, they will eventually bring out a particular document that would be used by most journalism educators side by side with the curriculum, the CMAS that was introduced by the NUC. So when this is done, I believe we can actually have a way of incorporating artificial intelligence, especially in the area of covering disinformation.
Interesting. Glad to know that the Nigerian University Commission is doing something to combat the use of artificial intelligence in disinformation. So let me come back to you, Okoyemi. I asked you earlier before the network became problematic was that there is democratization of access to digital media all over, where everybody has access to social media. You can open it anywhere. Then you can also create a news website in less than an hour. Now, why that is a good thing, it's also it's also a problematic issue. Now, how do you think that access, that democratization of access, can be better managed for advancement of press freedom?
Thank you, Tony. I think, like Nelson said earlier, the journalist needs to go beyond breaking the news without proper verification. They need to also consider the fact that their gatekeeping role is very sacrosanct to the journalism practice. So if they can stay within the limits of the media ethics, if they can go beyond republishing user-generated content without vetting them, if they can do proper verification of every news information before it goes out there, I think it will go a long way in checkmating the instances of disinformation that we have in the country. And I also believe that journalists need to also be passionate about acquiring new skills. It is very important for today's journalists in today's Nigerian media industry to have verification skills, to have open source investigation skills. And I think the media entrepreneurs would do the industry a lot of good if the journalists working with them are properly trained. With advanced skills in the verification, open source investigations, they are empowered to actually manage the democratization of access to information. And it can also not just reduce the impact of disinformation, it can also go a long way to empower the citizenry in demanding accountability from those who govern them or from institutions that they deal with on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Opemi. This question is for Benedicta. Your organization is involved in training of journalists. What do you think? What are the most important skills that you think journalists need now to do their job more effectively?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Okay, so for the Center for Journalism Innovation and Development, we currently have embarked on training journalists on how to safely report. So prior to the elections, we had a holistic safety, security safety for journalists to train journalists on how to properly report, how to be safe, and all of that. So then again, we had realized something that most journalists don't even know the laws or the constraining laws that like impede their work and all of that. So it was more like a total brush up for us. So we had to like raise awareness even to journalists themselves and also media organizations. So the skills that journalists need now more than ever, I think it would be digital. The digital skill, digital security skill, it's very, very important. So now in times where we see that we have cyber hacks, websites are hacked, I think Foundation for Investigative Journalism, that's one for FISAIO, was hacked this year. Last year, Premium Times Twitter account was hacked and all of that. So right now, more than ever, I think we need digital security skills for journalists. How to use encrypted mail, how to protect their source, how to like everything. I mean, this is digital age. I know we're talking about digital technology here. So I don't want to assume, but I would say that only few journalists in Nigeria really do know how to optimize the use of digital technology in disseminating information and also making sure for their safety. So I think that's what we are about to do. So to commemorate the Press Freedom Month, I think maybe on the 17th of this month, or maybe we might push it later. So we are hosting a journalist safety summit. Their journalists would be made to tell their experience, and there might be like a little session for training on digital security. We hope so, and I think that's that for now. So on the former question you asked on what can journalists do to ensure that they are safe despite challenges that they face and all of that, I think it has the burden has to do with the CSOs, the government. Yes, the government has the right, like I mean, they are in the position to make sure that journalists are safe and all of that. But then again, we see that this is the situation we're in now. So I would say collaboration, synergy between media organizations, CSOs, collaboration. Let's come together. Let's advocate for free press. It goes a very, very long way. Congratulations to us. So yesterday we got a news that the court dismissed the sanction of I think 25 media organization. Yeah, yes. So the judge stated that the NBC cannot be the enforcer, the accuser, and the punisher. And this is as a result of the advocacy that we have done so far. So this is what the power of collaboration does and all of that. So where we need digital security skills for journalists, we also need CSOs to come together to make sure that our voices are heard and, of course, promote press freedom in our thriving democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. I read the news about the judgment yesterday, and I was so happy that for once NBC will be checked by the court. I learned that we have some listeners and they are willing to ask questions. If you have any question, please you can unmute, then ask your question. Okay. So I'm going to ask all our panelists one question. And then we will call it today. Going forward, what are the prospects of the Nigerian media industry? Things are changing. We still have a lot of media houses that lag them behind in terms of adoption of technologies. What are the best way forward in terms of investment and knowledge acquisition for the Nigerian media? What are the things that we need to do in terms of adoption of digital media? This is open to all the panelists. I can start with Opeyemi.
I think the industry is becoming more lucrative with the increase in access to digital technology. But Nigerian media entrepreneurs need to diversify their portfolio in order to benefit from that development. More importantly, the country, Nigeria as a whole, is well endowed, as a high number of people who have internet access. And that is one of the advantages to the advantage of the media entrepreneur. And if they can invest well in data media, I'm very certain that it will go a long way. Being a newspaper platform solely or being a TV station solely can no longer sustain. It's an archaic business model, and I think if the media entrepreneurs in the country can embrace new business model offered and opportunities offered by the digital media, I think it will go a long way to boost not just their revenue, but also increase the pay package for the journalists which they engage their services. Thank you.
Thank you, Opeyemi. Okoye.
Okay, I just have to say a few things regarding what's moving forward, what we can do. I believe that there are a lot of opportunities when using digital technologies. One of the opportunity here is that there are opportunities for infrastructural and human capital development, a number of opportunities. I just recently stumbled at one of the UNESCO's grant for cultural diversity, and they're offering $200,000. But the fact is this, many Nigerian journalists don't know that these opportunities are there. There are so many of these opportunities there scattered. They are looking for persons, journalists, particularly journalists that they can actually invest in so they can advance, promote their infrastructure development, build their capacity, build their digital infrastructure. Well, like Okpeyemi has actually pointed out, we move from mainstream newspaper to digital journalism, whereby you have newspapers having both audio, visual, and text. So they need this particular opportunity. They need their opportunities are there. The organizations that are there that can help them to build their infrastructures, their digital infrastructure, to build that infrastructure. And beside that infrastructure development, also human development. They need to also build their human capacity, the number of trainings, free scholarships that can help journalists to advance in the area of AI, artificial intelligence, big data, data journalism. So these particular areas are there, and they can actually tap into these areas and advance, especially in the area of digital technology. The major reason why many journalists get engaged in this information is because they don't know how to distinguish between facts and opinion. They don't know how to distinguish between correct and incorrect information on social media spaces. So it is important they have this training. And these trainings are free, these trainings are sponsored, and there are a number of them that are being offered here within Nigeria and outside the country, so they can actually adopt this in these two areas, infrastructure and human capital development. Thank you.
Thank you, Okori. Chineze, what's your take on that question?
Oh, I would have said, oh, everybody has said what I wanted to say, but in addition to what has been said, last words, media owners must invest in technology. The world has moved on. I don't want to say the world is moving. The world has moved on. We cannot expect new things to happen if we're still doing things the old way. So they must invest in technology. That technology will help the journalists and the reporters to become a better or an improvement of themselves. Media owners must invest in their people. Trainings. These trainings will help deepen these journalists to understand the increasing complex economic, political, social and social issues we have in Nigeria and globally. Then for the reporters themselves, for the journalists, they need to invest in themselves as well. I don't know who mentioned, trainings that you'll be amazed at the number of free trainings you can get online. And you can even get a certificate for less than $10 or $5 if you now want to get a certificate after the course. So those courses are free. You need to make out time to put themselves out forward, train themselves, because the truth is eventually they will leave a particular media house and either become self-employed, own their own businesses, own their own media outfits. It's the training, that investment itself, that will sustain them to be able to maybe do well, progress in whatever it is they've decided to do. And all of these trainings help them to will help to support the work that journalists do, the work that the media do, and promote informed dialogue. So and then of course digital, when you're investing in technology, the reporters, the media, they can't do away with digital. The world has gone digital. If they don't, because some media houses are almost obsolete. Of course, they still I think they still persisted in newspaper, how many people read newspapers, except for people like my mom, who is like 75 years. Because because that's what they know. They don't, she says, oh no, don't give me, how can I be reading news on my phone? So how many 75-year-olds can read? All right, and then reading the newspaper. So you will notice that their print runs have come down, and a lot of them have been wise enough to go digital. So digital is the key. For the journalists themselves, they need to learn the new ways of reporting. What are those ways that can make their reporting easier? What can make their reporting smarter? What can make their reporting more acceptable, more appealing? All right. So they have to learn the new, all of this artificial intelligence and all of that. They must get in that space if they want to retain or remain relevant in the scheme of things. That's and then on the part of the relationship between PR experts and journalists, I think I'll put it out here that they are our friends. The media is our friends. We actually function better with the relationship we have with them. And there is no way that the PR firms, the PR consultants will not support the journalists to succeed. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chinese. Last word from Benedicta.
Hello. So my last word would be based on reality. I'm not trying to be an idealist here. So I totally agree with what Ms. Amako said about media organizations should invest in their journalism. But the truth of the matter is that the economic landscape of the media in Nigeria today is very poor. And it reflected so badly during the COVID. And we could see that many media organizations went down and all of that. So most media organizations in Nigeria, they're barely surviving. So any money they have now, they just used to like pick up the little bit that they have and all of that. So digital investment in digital technology might not be the first thing in their mind. So I think the big burden falls on media development sector. So we are in the position, for example, like CGID. I think organizations like CGID should like make it like a serious mandate to make sure that journalists are trained in the skill that they need. For example, for like digital security, safety of journalists, safe practices, how to tell stories, conflict stories, and all of that. I know that CGID do a lot of reporting, kind of reporting and all of that. So I feel like CSO, civil society organizations, that's another thing. Collaboration, this is what I say again, collaboration. We can join our resources, we can join human capacity, we can join everything together to train journalists, to train the media sector. Okay, this is how it's going to happen. So this is my own reality check on how to go forward with digital technology. To be very honest, the economic landscape of Nigerian media is very, 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 very low. There is no money to do that. So the only place we can run to is our own media development sectors, like CSOs and all of that. I think we should try as much as possible to liaise and collaborate with them, join resources together and brush up journalists and brush up the media and also try about democracy as far as we can go. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedicta. Thank you, everyone. One of the things that we learned today is that economy situation in Nigeria is one of the problems that is affecting press freedom in the country. And I cannot argue against that. Bad economic situation makes journalists susceptible to bribery, makes media organizations to engage in unwholesome practices. It also makes that organization susceptible to government sanctions and interference from outside, especially from powerful political operators. I also believe that all of these panelists have highlighted the role of training in making sure that journalists are able to do their job very well. And I can testify that apart from waiting on your employers to train you, personal training is also very important. I veered into digital media on my own. I remember that somebody wanted me to work for him, and I said, you have to teach me how to do this job, how to get into digital media. Instead of paying me, teach me that, then I can forgo the money. That's how I trained myself. And I learned how to get into the job in a city room. And that was about 8 years ago. And that's what's feeding my family today. In terms of training also, I work with AFP, and we have digital courses, especially for those who are interested in fact checking and digital verification. I also understand that organizations such as Reuters Foundation also have a digital training for journalists all over the world on their website. So I urge everybody who is interested to check out these courses, so that you can equip yourself and improve your own knowledge of digital verification and journalism at your own convenience. Once again, I thank everybody. Opeyemi from Fact Checkup, Chineza Amanfo from Night Mobile, Benzo Lala from CJID, and Nelson Okorie from Lagos Business School. Thank you, everyone, and I thank the organizer for inviting me. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. It's Benedicta, not
Thank
Benzo
you.
Lala.
Benedicta.
I actually said Benedicta.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank you.
much to me. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Mhm.